second year in a row, Kalen DeBoer has had to use fall camp to find out who will take the first snap in the football season. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard Mathangani, the aforementioned Gabriella Genereaux, Patrick Walsh playing point guard for us. I told you I was going to shout you out at the beginning.
Thanks.
Didn't tell you how.
Loved it. No.
I thought that was awesome, though. I
Yeah.
thought it was good. And it really relates, I think, a large part to the reason why we love college football.
Yeah.
I think the stories like Texas and Ole Miss, we love them because we already know what we think they're going to be.
Yeah.
At Alabama, there's so much of a mystery, especially
Right.
there at QB1.
Yeah, it's always fun to keep up with the teams that are going through a quarterback battle because, like you mentioned, there's just a lot of uncertainty on the team, right? Like who's going to be the leader of the team?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be running point guard for the team? There's just a lot that goes with the quarterback position. So when you're kind of comparing the two, it makes fall camp a little more fun.
Yeah, I saw this thing on Twitter, and it was Alabama's fan day. They had a media day, fan day
Yeah.
over the weekend, and they had pictures, and you saw the way the guys just rushed to Keelan Russell to take a little goofy picture with them.
Yeah.
And the person who posted it was using it basically like, the
Hey,
team's
looks
energy
like
is
this is our
telling you
guy.
who is going to be QB1.
Yeah.
Patrick, we saw last year as Kalen DeBoer and their offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, were making that decision for Ty Simpson. It ultimately came down to the fact that Ty Simpson didn't turn the ball over, he kept it safe, and he ended up winning the job there. Your thoughts on just the way this quarterback battle is going and maybe some of the attributes that they'll have to give to the guy that wins the job eventually?
Yeah, I think last year it was pretty set in stone that it was going to be Ty Simpson, even at this point in the preseason. I mean, you and I had both talked about the La Monroe game and how he didn't have an incompletion in that game, and he was so good. I think at one point he was 20-2 was his touchdown to interception ratio.
Right.
Unfortunately, that caught up to him towards the end of the season, but at that point, the book was already out on Alabama.
Yep.
If you can stop the run and then get into obvious passing situations, I mean, Ty Simpson just cannot outperform you. He no disrespect to Simpson, he just didn't have that it factor to be able to really wow you in that sense. However, this year, they do have a guy that I think eventually will have that it factor in Keelan Russell. I think this year is definitely going to be better in regards to the run game. The only question is how much protection are either of these guys going to get? Right. And it's been a problem for years now. Unfortunately, ever since Kalen DeBoer took over for Nick Saban there in Tuscaloosa, the offensive line has underperformed severely. I mean, you've had guys like Caden Proctor come in and just have, the utmost talent, but it seems like they just could not ever fully put together an entire season. So now I almost feel like Keelan Russell allows for, hey, if you're going to get into obvious passing situations, you at least have a guy that has the raw skill set to be able to find a way to make something up on his own. And I mean, that's always the sign of a good quarterback is to, be able to call audibles, be able to, design up your own play in case like coverage breaks down, which I mean, it probably will early on in the season.
Right.
Yeah.
Last year, when Ty Simpson got hurt in the Rose Bowl against Indiana, the guy they went to was Austin Mack.
Right.
They didn't go to Keelan Russell.
Yeah.
They had a chance to. They decided not to. Austin Mack played pretty well, considering I know Alabama lost that game by 1,000,000, but like it was a situation where the coaches kind of told you who they trusted in the moment.
Yeah.
It feels like this quarterback battle to me is almost like,
can Keelan prove himself?
right, almost holding the door open for Keelan and saying, hey, here's an opportunity. We'll see if you take it.
Yeah.
But Mack is the guy that has been with Coach DeBoer and Ryan Grubb since the days at Washington. He knows the playbook, and he was the guy trusted last year. Like we asked Patrick, what do you think is going to be the ultimate decider between these two guys?
It is interesting because it does feel like head coach Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have a lot of trust in Austin Mack just because he's been with them. Like you said, since his days in Washington, he obviously knows the system really well, but it just feels like they're so far removed from their Washington days now in Alabama. It almost feels like they're kind of looking for a different guy. They're looking for the 5-star Keelan Russell to prove himself and be able to take over that role. That's just the sense I get. It doesn't feel like they really want Austin Mack to be the guy. They want Keelan to prove that he's better than Austin Mack in a way.
Yeah. There's been a lot of interesting dynamics as it relates to the offense. The lack of the running game is definitely one. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's hear from Ryan Grubb. He talked a little bit about that, the tight end maturation and the quarterback battle altogether. People really want to know who this guy will roll out as QB1 here in the fall.
I think it starts with how that room has operated, honestly, since the off season. I would say they might be the closest room on the team. They support each other, they push each other, and so when they don't see it and the bar or the standard isn't reached, they're not scared to challenge each other. I think the drill work that Coach Owens works with those guys, he's extremely demanding. The run game piece has really come along with those guys, but I think the drill work looks like the team reps, and I think that's where it starts. When you can transition, achieving what you emphasize and showing up on team reps, that's a huge part of it. Yeah, I think the command of, I keep saying command, and I think one of the things that, I've been challenged them just now is command of a practice. I want to know what it feels like when the chips are down a little bit in a practice, or maybe we had a 3 and out and to move the ball. What do they look like? And, how are their teammates responding to them? So certainly you can't just have the rah-rah guy start if you can't throw the freaking ball. But I'm definitely looking for command because they're both capable physically of making all the plays. So now you're starting to look at decision-making, completion percentages, turnovers, explosives, how all those things obviously weigh out. But then also just, does it look like that guy believes, like, I'm going to make this play? And, both those guys are getting better at that every day.
It's so interesting hearing him talk about some of the things that they're looking for. And it's just more about confidence. It's more about, he talked about command. He wants, do the guys pay attention to you? Do you have assertiveness in the offense?
Which...
Go ahead, finish that thought.
To your point, that picture of everyone rushing over to Keelan Russell, it feels like he has a little more of the attention and the command of the team right now.
Right,
but obviously, I mean, we're not there. We're not at the practices, so it's hard to say for sure. But the way social media is painting it, it feels like Keelan Russell is more of that guy.
And I do think that what he's saying without saying is last year, Ty Simpson was the guy that protected the football, always threw it in the right spot.
Yeah.
He was never going to put the team in harm's way. And I'm not saying that any offensive coordinator or this one is going to wish for interceptions or turnovers.
Right, yeah.
But maybe a little bit more forgiving if you're able to make 3 explosive plays, 5 explosive plays against one maybe questionable or maybe bad play, which maybe last year's grading system would have punished a little bit more than this year's grading system. Once again, reading the tea leaves.
Right. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, a young quarterback would need a little more of that forgiveness.
Yeah.
So again, feels like it points to Keelan.
Yeah. And the offense, obviously, it relies on the passing game for the quarterback, but also you have to balance it out in order to be a good offense with the running game.
Yeah.
I have pulled up the stats from last year. Alabama was 15th of 16 teams. LSU was dead last in the SEC. Alabama rushed for about 104 yards.
And that feels wrong for Alabama, right?
Yes. Not only
they should always have good running backs.
I mean, it wasn't even just like the running back room. It was like how many guys, it felt like in the Nick Saban era. Yeah. Your starter was a first round draft pick.
They're all still playing in the NFL, it feels like, It felt
like you could go 3 deep and have guys that you would put as starters on any other team in America.
Yeah.
And guys that will eventually be first round picks.
Yeah.
And it was just completely the opposite last year. Patrick, as they try to patchwork the run game there with a guy that we know well here in this area on the Gulf Coast. Do you think and expect it to be better than 15th out of 16 in the SEC?
I am going to make a very, very bold prediction.
Okay.
He is going to have a coming out party kind of like another guy from down here had just a couple of years ago, and Ryan Williams. He is going to have one massively explosive game. I'm talking about EJ Crowell.
That's right.
Where he absolutely wins the RB1 job. Like, Alabama cannot afford to not have him be the starting running back,
right?
In my opinion. I mean, this is a talent that people are equating to Derrick Henry, and I honestly, you and I both saw the highlights from last year.
Yep.
You and I were at the games.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh boy, this guy is going to be a problem in the SEC. And
where do you play?
Over at Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've shot so many highlights of this kid.
And here's the thing, though. He's got a lot in the tank because he only played in half the games.
Right,
like,
he
played in every game.
Right.
Except for the first one, but then ended up like leaving at halftime because Jackson was up by so much because they were just absolutely dominating.
That team was so unfair. They had so many D1 players. They had 2 guys that went to North Carolina. Their quarterback is the backup to Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. EJ was a 5-star running back, the best running back in America. And to Patrick's point, there was 2 games where I knew I had to be there right at kickoff because he was going to get literally maybe 5 carries. Gabriella, he got 2, scored both times, and he was done. He was 2 carries, 2 touchdowns, 160 yards or 140 yards, and that was his night.
Yeah.
That's how good of a talent he is.
I
Yeah,
don't want to.
that's awesome.
I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I don't want to say it's going to be the ECU game because I think that's going to be a rotation game. It might be the Kentucky game
Okay.
because that's the first SEC game of the year for Alabama.
Right.
And if you can make your mark on the SEC by having, I'm talking like 150 yards on the ground and 2 scores.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
nice. Yeah.
For you to be able to
Yeah.
take that much pressure off of either Austin Mack or Keelan Russell to just go out there and be like, hey, hand me the ball, feed me, and I will literally run over everyone and score 2 touchdowns and run for 150 yards. And oh, by the way, now the entire league has to realize, dang, maybe they did underrate Alabama just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always weird. And it is really scary, the fact that everyone is counting out this Alabama team early, because you talk about other teams. You talk about Ole Miss. You talk about Texas. You talk about Georgia. You talk about LSU even. But no one's talking about this Alabama team. And they are definitely taking the disrespect to heart.
Yeah. If you listen to Coach Kalen DeBoer, he said that.